So you clicked on this video because you want to be a race car driver and you want to have your own car and be able to go run whenever you want, but unfortunately you don't have the money or funding to do so. And in today's show, I'm going to give you 4 tips on what I would do if I was in that situation and how I'd get closer to that goal. So out of everything I talk about in this video, this is hands down the most valuable piece of information in my opinion. Number 1, if you do not have enough money to get involved, own your own car, but you want to be a race car driver, you need to go to the races. And that can mean so many different things, but I think you'd be surprised by the potential opportunity or who you could meet or what could happen by just going to the races and start forming relationships. And this is not a process that just happens like that. This is something that takes a lot of time, but if you're wanting to, become involved in our sport and start to know people, you have to go to the races and start, letting people become familiar with you. And that's everyone. That's the person at the front gate, that's the owner of the track, that could be the flagman, that's crew guys, that's drivers, car owners, other fans, officials, literally everyone. You want them to become familiar with what you want to do, which is literally become a race car driver. And like I said, this is going to take a lot of time, but you need to go, you need to be a casual fan, buy a pit pass, and stand back and watch how it all happens. And then after the races, talk to the drivers, talk to the crew guys, talk to the car owners, talk to the other fans, and over time start building that relationship. And maybe I'm different, but I can tell you from experience, if I see a fan over and over again, I will remember their name, I will recognize them, and I will remember our conversations. It's just it's hard not to if you see them regularly. And the value isn't even just necessarily in knowing them. I mean, that's great, but it leads me to this next step. What I would say is, as you feel like you maybe get to know them more, go to multiple of these guys, multiple of these teams, and ask them and offer to help them for free that night, just in exchange for learning how they do it all. You're basically offering yourself to be a free mud scraper, but you'd be surprised, a lot of local teams or, at the go-kart races or with the 4-cylinder or mini stock or street stock or modified guys, they would love to have an extra hand. I would even bet that there's teams out there that would buy your pit pass for the night if at the end of it you dismounted all their burnt up tires and took away a job that's not so fun like that. And it wouldn't take much for them to teach you how to do so. But what I'm getting at is you're probably going to be doing jobs more at the bottom end of the totem pole, but you want to learn and gain this valuable knowledge. So now you're wondering, how is that going to help me get my own race car and start building my own team? And I hate to tell you, there's really no guarantee that it will, but all I can say is I think you would be surprised how over time, as you start building connections and relationships at the tracks with teams that you might potentially help, or with just the people you meet at the track in general, I always say you never know what that can lead to, what opportunity can pop up. So when you don't have the money to race, you're just trying to put yourself in position to possibly get to that next step or meet that person that can help you make it happen. My second tip for getting involved in the sport of racing and not having the proper funding, I would recommend going and getting a job that is racing related, and if possible to get one with the manufacturer of the type of car that you're looking to get into. And I think this one is like a big double thumbs up because you literally get to learn and build the type of car that you are wanting to race, and you also get paid for it. So you're contributing to that racing fund and you're getting to work around other guys that know how to build the cars, potentially make them go fast. And like I said in tip number 1, you're just putting yourself in that atmosphere to start making connections, be around the right people, and you never know, what that can lead to. And to just throw a few company examples out there, if you're looking to get into outlaw karts, QRC would be a great one to reach out to. If you're looking to get a job in the micro sprint world, I'm sure maybe like D1, Hyper Racing, 10J. In sprint cars, you have Maxim, XXX, KPC, and there's a long list of chassis all throughout the country. So what I'm just trying to get at is there's a lot of companies that need help, and it doesn't even have to be one that just manufactures the race cars. There's so many different that, take care of all the components between all the cars. You also have engine builders to keep in mind. Another good one is parts dealers all across the United States that I'm sure there would probably be one in your local area. But the point that I'm trying to make, if you get some sort of job that you can do during the week, you can start contributing to your racing fund. You're also making those connections and meeting people, and you're learning a lot, which is going to help you as you try to build your own program, own your own race car, and you have to make it go fast. And now we got tip number 3 if you don't have the money or funding to get involved in our sport, but you want to be a race car driver. And this one's a little bit more basic, but you can go out and find sponsorship. One of the big jobs that all of us drivers have is going out and finding sponsors and partners for our teams and our race cars to make it happen. So even if you're in an entry level to dirt racing, or you're up, racing with the World of Outlaws, this is a battle that we all face and we're all trying to take down. You're always looking for people that want to help your team, help make your dream happen. And I don't really have any secret or crazy advice or some formula to get sponsors, but what I've said, what it's all about is connections, who you know. And then also with this one, it's just about being bold and putting yourself out there. It's uncomfortable to ask for money. I get that. It really is. But what I try to preach to people, and I even have to preach this to myself, but the worst thing you're gonna hear is no, and then you move on to the next person. And I encourage you to keep going through that process. Come up with some sort of resume or something that describes, who you are, what you're about, and what you're looking to do. And you want to keep that small and condensed and straight to the point, and something that represents you that you can take to potential sponsors, businesses, people in your area, and pitch them and see what they say. So my last and tip number 4 on how to get involved in racing if you don't have the proper funding and money to do it, I would recommend just getting a job. And I know that totally sounds like an obvious one, but here is why. Obviously, getting that job is going to create an income source that you're going to be able to put towards building your race team. But also, and of course, this is going to take time, but who is to say that if you get that job, you start working there, you're doing really, really well. You're showing up on time, you're putting in a lot of hours, your boss is taking notice. And since you're big into racing, I'm sure the people around you at your work will probably know that you're into it. It's just kind of hard for them not to, that potentially your job that you're doing well at could be your first sponsor. I don't think it's uncommon for a business owner to want to help their employees accomplish their goals in life as well. So if you're doing really well for a company, I think it's definitely a possibility that they could potentially help you back as you form that relationship and grow together. And maybe you guys will say I'm wrong about that one, and maybe I am, but I have seen situations like that happen before, so I know it's definitely a possibility. It's just everything's got to mesh right. So those are my 4 tips on if I wanted to be a race car driver, but I did not have the money and funding to do so. I would encourage you guys, if you take any of the 4 routes that I kind of mentioned, to put 110% into it. I think in today's day and age, people recognize hard work. And then of course, we all know that racing is a very expensive sport, and it's just going to absorb all the money that you throw at it. And you're gonna have to realize that you're probably gonna lose more races than you will ever win, and you just kind of have to take the good days with the bad days, and no matter what, keep your head down and keep racing.